This is the weekly business news in English on TV3. I am Nugzaru Khadza. Good morning. This week, Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili gave official account to his teammates and the community at large. In his report, he highlighted the issues of overall health care, diminished mortality rate, reforms in the justice system, implemented infrastructural projects, and multi-million worth investments in agriculture. Garibashvili's account covered the new administration's activity during the period of 2 years. According to the Premier, the authorities have justified the trust of our population in the Georgian Dream Coalition. It means that the new powers that be are leading the country in the right direction.
During these 2 years, we showed progress absolutely in all spheres. Our achievements are confirmed by corresponding indices as well as by the results of our good work. You don't see it because television does not give coverage to it. Why? Because the TV companies are not happy with it. However, people feel the changes in their lives.
In the words of the Prime Minister, thanks to the correct reforms in healthcare, for the first time in the last 20 years, the death rate diminished and the number of the retired people increased. Ambulatories in the regions have been refurnished while the state is refunding the emergency medical expenses of patients. According to the Prime Minister, the volume of financial assistance to the refugees and socially deprived people has doubled. The latter became feasible due to the economic growth.
We liberated business from the pressure of the state. Prior to our coming to power, political pressure was the reason of generating problems in the country's economy. The new administration created the environment and conditions that allow the private sector to develop long-term business a proper way. During these 2 years, 46,000 business subjects have livened up.
According to the Premier, agriculture is the country's another priority sphere. Garibashvili believes that unprecedented steps were taken in that direction.
It is exceptional for Georgia. We financed 89 new enterprises and refurbished 52 enterprises. Our opponents insist there is no trace of 100 new enterprises in Georgia. I insist that we have set up 89 new enterprises.
Implementation of infrastructural projects will go on. This was the Premier's message. Garibashvili explained that these projects envisage the actual improvement of people's lives, contrary to creating a fake impression of the nation's rebirth. The Prime Minister also touched upon the issue of building new hydroelectric stations. He said he is aware of our population's interest and concern with several of the projects. The Premier pledged to implement all these projects only after their thorough examination and careful study. In the view of Garibashvili, one of the most important achievements of the current government is depoliticizing of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Instead of a punitive organ, the police have turned into a guarantor of human safety. The Premier also highlighted the reforms in the sphere of penitentiary system. He said that the country's democratic outlook is measured by the existing conditions in prisons and the way they treat the inmates. In the end, Garibashvili stressed that his administration is aligned with people's welfare and this attitude will not change. Assessing the Prime Minister's report, the parliamentary opposition pointed out that the figures and facts mentioned in the account of Garibashvili are not in keeping with reality. the National Movement Party believes that together with his entire government, Garibashvili is leading the country to a total collapse.
He assured people that they have opened 100 new enterprises in Georgia, while they have not lifted a finger, doing nothing to that end. Lots of new jobs were created in Garibashvili's Georgia, while actually people became more impoverished. Meantime, pensions have not grown even by 1 lari.
Ivanishvili brought these people thanks to his lies, and they continue to govern the country by lies. If everything was okay in the country's economy, we would not have problems with the budget. Current government is unable to fulfill the budget. Including 2014, the Georgian economy lost 4 billion lari. Concretely, this means a number of lost jobs.
Unlike the opposition, members of the government met the Premier's report with enthusiasm. They agreed that the country is moving towards the right objective, and that to that end, the entire cabinet of ministers is working tirelessly. Premier Garibashvili's report on his administration's 2-year-long activity at the helm of the country's policy and economy contained an important message to our Abkhaz and Ossetian compatriots. He began his passage regarding the occupied territories with the congratulations on the Day of the Abkhazian Language. He offered Abkhazians and Ossetians an European prospect and a wide autonomy within the limits of the Georgian territory. Irakli Garibashvili proposed to forget the past and move to the new stage of relationship.
I call on all our Abkhaz and Ossetian brothers to think again and carefully assess the fact that this is the territory of one and indivisible Georgia. You had the status of autonomous republics. We offer you the same. You can have autonomy within the limits of integral, independent Georgia and live in a peaceful environment.
The Prime Minister assesses the chances of existing of independent, globally acknowledged states on the occupied territories as an utopian and unachievable plan.
Neither we nor the next generation will come to terms with this idea because it has been our land since the old days. It is our territory. Our ancestors have been shedding blood to protect it. You cannot be happy without us. Neither we will be happy without you.
The Premier's opponents and his teammates assess his statement in radically different ways. His teammates approved of Garibashvili's attitude. Meanwhile, some of his opponents view his appeal as ridiculous. Others argue that the fate of the Abkhaz and Ossetians is decided by Moscow.
We have heard an absolutely comical declaration. Since he seems to be unaware of the fact, I want to explain to the Prime Minister that till now, Abkhazia and Tskhinvali region enjoy autonomy. Nobody has annulled their autonomy.
Experts evaluate the Premier's offer positively, although they think it will not change the situation at this stage. The Premier is aware that the dialogue and integration is a hard job to do, but he hopes that a restoration of trust is still possible. Time will show whether Garibashvili's judgment is right or wrong. Meanwhile, Moscow and Sukhumi plan to sign the new agreement by the end of the year. In the wake of Sukhumi, simultaneously with Abkhazia, the so-called South Ossetia intends to sign the agreement of cooperation and integration with Russia. Anatoly Bibilov, chairman of de facto Parliament of South Ossetia, made this sad statement recently. At the same time, he responded to the Georgian Premier's offer to Abkhaz and Ossetian peoples autonomy within the boundaries of Georgia and a chance to enjoy the European prospect. Representatives of de facto Tskhinvali regime called Garibashvili's proposal an utopian idea. Tbilisi did not take long to react to the diligent apple polisher for Russia. Members of the ruling party say that they are ready for all challenges. It seems that the planned finalization of the agreement between Sukhumi and Moscow does not interfere in Georgian-Russian business relations. After a long pause, Russian air company Aeroflot resumed its Tbilisi-Moscow-Tbilisi flights. The first flight of Aeroflot took 100 passengers from Tbilisi to Moscow. In order to celebrate the resumption of flights, the Russian air company organized a presentation at Tbilisi International Airport. Aeroflot has 153 airlines at its service. It performs regular as well as charter flights to 52 countries in 121 directions. The Russian company intends to perform daily flights to Moscow and back. Tbilisi hosted International Investment Forum under the slogan Georgia Regional Hub and link between Asia and Europe. Prime Minister of Georgia opened the forum. He acquainted the participants in the gathering with the country's basic investment directions. The Premier said that the given region has great potential and Georgia will do its best to realize this potential. He stressed that Georgia is ready to be a reliable business partner to international community and offer an action plan to the parties concerned.
We have aggressively cracked down on corruption and we have ended government impunity. And Georgia is not only open for business, but it is safe for business. Additionally, we recognize that the health and education of people of Georgia are key to our economic success.
That the economy and the population, very importantly, remain open to visitors, and the growth that you've seen in tourism over the last 5 years, I think, also speaks to that. But as we begin to close out 2014, I think this is also an excellent time, Prime Minister and Vice President, that we gauge where we are in the emerging market atmosphere. It's one of uncertainty after all, and what we've seen over the last 12 months.
According to the Minister of Economy, several directions came into sight, which aroused the interest of Asian investors.
Several sectors came into sight. They belong to the spheres of energy, production, tourism, and hotels, as well as transport, logistics, financial sector, and agriculture.
The forum, which was organized by the government of Georgia and Asian Development Bank, lasted for 2 days. It was attended by more than 100 participants from the countries of the Far East, Middle East, Asia, Europe, and the United States of America. According to the new research conducted by the team of the World Bank, Georgia moved from the 14th place to the 15th position as regards the simplicity of doing business. Nevertheless, it still holds the highest place in the European and Central Asian region. The research indicates that our country still retains one of the leading positions among 189 countries of the world. Georgian Minister of Economy takes no heed of this insignificant change of position. In his words, Georgia remains on the scale of previous year's criteria. He says that this year's trifle change was caused due to the added points in the methodology of the research. Presentation of the first press club took place at the Trade and Industry Chamber of Georgia. Georgian as well as foreign businessmen will make use of the press club. Representatives of small, middle-sized, and big business will be able to present their initiatives, plans, and contentious issues to the local community by the help of the press club of the trade chamber. Kae Yangisawa, chief of the Japanese Agency of International Cooperation, JICA, G-I-C-A, was the first guest of the Trade Chamber of Press Club. He arrived in Georgia in the capacity of a member of the Japanese delegation. Within the framework of the delegation's visit, the Georgian Trade Chamber organized a roundtable for the members of the Japanese delegation. Minister of Healthcare, David Sergienko, attended the meeting. The minister touched upon the issue of Georgian-Japanese relations. Member of Parliament Zviad Dzidziguri and Vice Mayor of Rustavi Nodar Sherozia got acquainted with the operating procedure at AG Telecom, the enterprise which produces electronic goods. They also met with the management of AG Telecom Company. Within the framework of state program Produce It in Georgia, the company received the sum of $606,000 American dollars. The factory was built by the joint Georgian-Azeri investment. At present, 80 people are employed at the factory. Their number will increase by 50 persons when new workshops open. It is planned to hire the students of the engineering department of the Ilia State University along with local residents. In the near future, leaders of the company intend to build packing and storage workshops too. Minister of Agriculture opened cold storage facilities in the village of Tsenisi of the Samtskhe-Javakheti region. Limited liability company named Georgian Business Zone constructed the cold storage facility thanks to the project of beneficial agro credits of the Agency of Managing Agricultural Projects and with the support of USAID. Within the framework of the project, the company received the beneficial loan of $244,000, while USAID granted $98,000 to limited liability company called Georgian Business Zone.
We borrowed 1 million lari in the frame of beneficial credit and built several farms of modern standards, which caters for 70 milk cows. At the same time, we constructed a cold storage facility where we and other farmers of our region can keep their products for a long time.
The new cold storage facility can accommodate up to 120 tons of yield. 45 people are employed at the company. Georgia's Prime Minister opened a public center in Duisi. According to Irakli Garibashvili, as of now, inhabitants of the Pankisi Gorge will have no problems connected with getting state services. Local residents will receive 200 types of on-the-spot service that are in the highest demand. The Duisi dwellers can make use of a meeting room, modern electronic library, free internet, and computers. According to the Premier, they have surveyed the resources and potential of the gorge, and accordingly, they will launch the program of social and economic development of the gorge. It envisages the development of local production, which will utilize local resources. According to the information of Irakli Garibashvili, there are 12 public centers that are functioning in Georgia. This year, 4 more centers are scheduled to be opened. The investigation service of the Ministry of Finance detained the Turkish citizen Yashar Mustafa for the fact of inflicting property damage and charged 2 Georgian citizens, Jamal Zaneladze and Levan Mjavanadze, with committing fraud. The investigation discovered that on August the 25th, of 2008, the limited liability company called L&K Holding purchased at the auction 20,000 square meters of land in Batumi for almost 900,000 lari. According to the terms of the auction, the buyer had to invest the sum of the lari equivalent to $3 million in 36 months and provide jobs to 100 Georgian citizens. However, the buyer did not fulfill the commitment. According to a fake audit conclusion, the limited liability company under the name of L&K Holding invested a little over 5 million lari, although the company actually effected the investment of only about 2.5 million lari. As a result, the state sustained the losses of 2,300,000 lari. Well, that's all this morning. You are watching the weekly business news in English on Channel 3 of the Georgian television. Thank you very much for being with us. I am Nugzaru Khadze. I'll see you again next Saturday morning at exactly 11 a.m. right here on TV3. Until then, have a great week.